Greetings, mere mortals. In this video, I'll be presenting a rather grandiose list of the utmost importance, for it is today where we shine the spotlight on our grandest villains in the anime world. Yes, we'll be taking a deep dive into the villainous side of the anime world, because when you're in a show with a lot of bad guys and their inflated egos, there is only room for one, isn't there? Let's take a look at some of my favorite villain versus villain showdowns in anime. We start off with Hunter x Hunter. The Chimera Ants are among the more interesting villains in the series. Their competition for the spot? The Phantom Troop. They both have their charismatic members who have a lot of redeeming aspects to their character in terms of morality, or in the case of Hisoka, just plain entertainment. However, it's hard to root for either side when the sadistic torture technician Feitan battles the selfish and conceited Zazan. Like the assassin that he is, Feitan approaches the fight with more trickery and cunning, something that hopefully puts him on par with Zazan's sheer power. In a straight-up battle, little can be done to compensate for the difference in physical prowess. However, Feitan's pain packer ends up being the great equalizer. In the battle of the two villains, I find Feitan the lesser evil, at least for the moment anyway. It's quite an entertaining fight that I can confidently call one of the highlights of the arc. Shigaraki vs Redestro is up next. My Hero Academia has no shortage of villains. However, when it comes to the head honchos at the top of the food chain, there can only be room for one. Vying for the hole left by All For One's defeat, the League of Villains Shigaraki goes on a collision course with leader of the Meta Liberation Army, taking their own underlings with them in a conflict that leaves the city at the mercy of their destructive powers. The whole arc is full of villain versus villain fights, something that I didn't expect out of a shonen. Despite having the more sinister goal, I think that Shigaraki comes off as a more charismatic one, and thus the one who I'm inclined to side with in this conflict due to having a more compelling backstory. The fight itself is a spectacle that you'd be better off watching for yourself. There's no shortage of drama, and it seems that the two titans will keep throwing haymakers at each other, all leading to a thrilling conclusion. Following that, we have Kaido versus Big Mom. Kaido and Big Mom. Wouldn't the two peak villains eventually put fans in a power level debate on who's the strongest and baddest pirate of them all? Well, fans of power level debates, you won't have to wait any longer. Episode 950 of One Piece is a landmark episode as both of these gargantuan forces finally clash. The heavens split and the earth shakes as the two powerhouses collide, throwing their abilities at each other. You know, I personally love how Kaido's Conqueror Haki was depicted in the anime, but Big Mom's responses aren't too shabby either. She holds her ground rather magnificently, despite the eye test favoring Kaido at first glance. But hey, why fight each other when you can just form an alliance and conquer the world? Thus, the two put their differences aside and give birth to an unholy alliance, one that will shake the world to its core. Watch out. With this extensive rogues gallery, it's no surprise that JoJo has one of these villain face-offs. Let's take something from recent history now, shall we? Remember the time when Doppio battled Risotto in Golden Wind? It's a whole arc in itself, and I still get excited seeing Metallica take on King Crimson. It's as wacky as you'd expect any JoJo fight to be, but it's got more layers of awesomeness when you look at it in depth. There's the awesome revelation of Metallica's power as well as Doppio's true identity. The fight is also a showcase of how dangerous its iron manipulation really is. It seems that all hope is lost for Doppio before Aerosmith enters the fray, turning the tides of the battle for good. Risotto gets offered mercy, but I like how he just says screw it and makes a defiant last stand even on the verge of death. It's a treat of a villain fight, being written as more of a scrappy underdog duel that ends with a dramatic turnaround of epic proportions. We've got fights aplenty coming ahead, but what I'm most concerned for is the fight that involves us. Now that is our battle against hackers in the battlefield called the internet. That's why I present to you our #1 weapon against hackers or unpleasant personalities looking to extract our data. It's the sponsors of this video, ExpressVPN. Thanks to ExpressVPN, I found myself browsing the internet without any fear even when I've been in countries that have heavily regulated internet. You don't need to be a tech wizard to make this work. I used it just this weekend to watch Hunter x Hunter, which isn't available in the UK. All I had to do was open up ExpressVPN and select the United States server, and boom! Now I can watch Hunter x Hunter like dozens of other anime on Netflix. Break region locks, overcome villains trying to get your personal info, and surf without suffering any slowdowns in internet speed. So, what's not to like? No other VPN I've used comes anywhere close to ExpressVPN in terms of effectiveness, ease of access, and value for money. You can get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by following the link below or typing in www.expressvpn.com/ViniiTube. A world of safe browsing and an internet free of limitations are at your fingertips. Okay, let's return to more villain versus villain battles. For Fate's representative, it's actually a pretty close call for me. I wasn't sure whether I'd give this the nod over Gilgamesh versus Berserker. In the end, this did win. Why, you ask? Well, Gilgamesh is brash and arrogant, while Berserker is just a force of nature looking to kill our protagonist. However, I don't think either of them are actually evil in their core. The same can't be said of our two combatants here, the fallen priest and unholy patriarch of the Matos. This feud between the two villains stretched through the Three Heavens Fields movie, but they would finally get their hands on each other in Spring Song. Assisted by Assassin, Zoken tries to maneuver his pieces and get rid of Kirei, only for the priest to outsmart him and finally exercise his body. Now, it's not as grand as Gilgamesh versus Berserker, but I feel that this battle symbolizes what I like about evil versus evil battles. Instead of a straight-up battle of strength, this long confrontation is more of a series of mind games and careful plotting. One Punch Man has one of these two. Speeder Sound Sonic and Deep Sea King are up next. There are few things bigger than a humongous supervillain's ego, and we see that in full display when Deep Sea King, coming off a solid win, dares Sonic to defy him. Having just as big of an ego as the gargantuan Deep Sea King, Sonic obviously responds in kind, resulting in an impromptu face-off between the two fighters with completely different profiles. In a similar vein to Feitan and Zazan, we have a speed versus power fight here. Sonic also starts off on the offensive quick, and despite everything that Deep Sea King can throw at him, he keeps dodging or outmaneuvering them. Like Zazan, Deep Sea King unleashes an empowered form that allows him to finally get his hands on Sonic, only to have his plan thwarted again. The ninja having escaped his grasp and swearing victory next time. Classic fast-paced action here. It's a fight that's short but sweet, helped a lot by One Punch Man's excellent animation. Gintama has one hell of a villain versus villain fight in Takasugi versus Oboro. We've got yet another quickie in Takasugi versus Oboro's battle towards the end of the Rakuyo decisive battle arc. Towards the waning moments of the arc, after Oboro had gone through a hell of a gauntlet which included the likes of the Shinsengumi and Gintoki, he encounters his final opponent, Takasugi. The fight's just as you'd expect from two high-tier fighters. Lots of sword clashes and physical blows. There's the overarching theme of an eye for an eye, which holds a lot more weight given Oboro's backstory. The two finally clash quick draw style, with Takasugi coming out on top. But dying takes a toll, you know. But I think that in terms of the narrative, it's better to have the fight to be direct and to the point. The accompanying backstory also doubles as a fitting and touching farewell for Oboro. Some wonky animation here and there doesn't detract too much from the battle and the story overall. We cap off this list with something from FMA, Greed versus Wrath. Among the villains in FMA, I'm personally partial to Greed. There's just something about that wildcard nature of his that attracts me so much. He's also got one hell of a character story to tell once the events of the series are done, and it's his unpredictability that opens the door to interesting fights like the one he had versus Wrath. On paper, Wrath should have the upper hand, but Greed has Ling's guidance to help him, as well as lots and lots of backup. It's really cool how the fight makes it seem that the two villains can go toe-to-toe with one another, despite one supposedly being a lot stronger if we look at storyline importance. Instead, Greed forces forces Wrath to go deep into his bag of tricks, activates his eye power, only for him to actually find a way to actually overcome the Ultimate Eye. It's a touch-and-go fight full of momentum shifts, and while it's not as memorable as any of Mustang's outbursts or Wrath's best fights, it's a pretty good example of villain versus villain done right. This is also a fight that happens en route to Greed's final redemption, if you can call it that, so Greed fans should find this fight extra special. So which is your favourite villain versus villain moment in anime? I'd love to know, so don't hesitate to chime in on the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. And if you want to support me, which I think you should, don't waste any more time. Come and check out my memberships and see what ViniiTube has to offer. You can also visit my Patreon to support me more directly. Your pledges won't be for naught. Don't forget to check out our sponsors of this video, ExpressVPN. All you have to do is click the link in the description box or go to expressvpn.com/ViniiTube for a 3-month free trial. With that, we end the video, and I hope that you enjoyed watching it. Remember to subscribe so that you can be the first in line next time round, and I hope to see you again.